It's 2 p.m. on Friday, April 25th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Conn-young. It's been more than 9 days since a nearly 7,000-ton Seoul ferry sank off Korea's southwestern coast with more than 470 people on board. Now, more bodies have been retrieved from the sunken vessel overnight, raising the death toll to 183. And as the death toll rises, the number of missing declines. As of this Friday afternoon, 119 remain unaccounted for. Now, so 183 people have been confirmed dead in the sinking of that ferry, and 119 remain missing, I confirm. In waters off Korea's southwestern coast where the accident happened, search and rescue operations are now into its 10th day. But not a single survivor has been found since the ferry capsized last Wednesday morning. But efforts do continue, with authorities having decided to use what's called a diving bell at the site for the first time later this afternoon. For the latest, we now go to our Song Ji-sun live at Paekmokgang Harbor, which is the nearest point of land to the accident site. Ji-sun.
Conn-young, the search and rescue operation continue on this 10th day, although the conditions are less favorable compared to previous days, as the currents are stronger and faster. Even rain is forecast for the weekend. Now, 3 more female bodies have been recovered, most likely Conn-young High School students, and the death toll now stands at 183, with 119 still missing underwater. The divers will continue their search on the 3rd floor, where the cafeteria is, and on the 4th level of the ship, where the cabins of most Conn-young High School students were located, focusing on the center of the deck. Authorities will also deploy a diving bell in an hour from now, a chamber that could be used as a base and transportation of divers underwater, to beef up the number of divers that can engage in search operation and also stay longer in the water. Search will continue, as parents of the missing have requested that the ferry not be lifted out of water until every body is recovered. 5 cranes are on standby, but no one assumes the lifting will take place anytime soon.
And Ji-sun, it seems like tensions between the families of the missing and authorities involved in this search and operations have passed the boiling point. Have things calmed down a little bit there?
Yes, this all-out efforts came after the parents who were angry and desperate and exhausted. They have shown doubts and distrust against the government and authorities here regarding the search rescue operation. Now, they have sat down with the Maritime Minister as well as the Chief Commissioner of the Coast Guard from 5 p.m. Thursday evening, and they have been questioning them for over hours and overnight about whether enough was and is being done. The parents also want more diving distance lines to be installed on the 4th deck of the sunken ferry, where most students are expected to be, and they're demanding more civilian divers to be brought into operation. Parents want them back in the water, as they think there are not enough divers out there to recover the bodies of their children. Several parents will also be out on the waters on the barge where divers engage in search operation. The Maritime Minister and the Coast Guard Chief will stay on site to direct the operations and assist the families, as the parents requested, until the last student is brought back on shore. This has been Song Ji-sun reporting live from Paekmokgang Harbor in Jindo.
Now, let's try getting a better sense of what's to come in terms of search, rescue, and salvage operations down off Korea's southwestern coast. For that, Captain Nicholas Sloan joins us live on the line from Italy. Nicholas Sloan is a marine master with over 30 years of experience and was in charge of salvage operations of the wrecked Costa Concordia cruise ship off Italy. Captain Sloan, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good day to you, and greetings from Italy.
Now, let's start with the search and rescue operations here in Korea, now in its 10th day. Based on your expertise and experience in the field, which stage is the Korean rescue team at, and how does this case compare with the Costa Concordia case?
Well, I think obviously it's a huge tragedy, and there's far more victims on the case in South Korea than the Concordia. But I think the search and rescue teams are facing very similar challenges, and the divers have to make their way into the upturned casualty. So it's almost like going into a hotel that's been turned on its side and everything's falling and blocking the passageway and accesses. So one of the best things is to have saturation diving and the bell that prolongs the time that the divers have to actually carry out their search and rescue operations. But doing search and rescue is a very special sort of, let's say, it's not every diver that becomes a search and rescue diver. You need divers that actually are trained and they have counselling and backup to support them doing search and rescue, especially with recovery of bodies. So I think that the complexities are the weather and the time that the diver has in the water. So the fact that the bell will be deployed today is a very good step.
All right. So now based on your experience with Costa Concordia, of course, you were the supervisor, or you're the chief of the project there. How long do you think the salvage of the Seoul ferry will take, and what will be some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is obviously to complete the search and rescue and do the recovery of all the victims. So there's no point in going to the next step until the divers have done all that they can. But you have to look at the risk and the threat to the divers themselves, and it gets to a point where the risk to the lives of the search and rescue teams gets to a point where you can no longer guarantee their safety. Then you have to look and plan what it's take the next step. So I think the authorities are doing the right thing, is that to calm everything down and carry out a methodical search. I mean, it's a very big ship if you think of how many cabins there are, and obviously the water depth. So you need time and you need good weather. But hopefully the weekend weather won't impact too much on the diving operations. Once they get to a point where they think that there is no further chance of recovering any of the victims, then they can look at the first step in the salvage operation, and that's to move the ship either to more sheltered waters where they can extend the search and rescue operation, or even try and bring the ship up completely. The big difference between her and the Concordia is the size. The Concordia was obviously 3 football fields long and well over 100,000 tons. So that took a lot longer for us to prepare and get the pulling forces. But I think the fact that you have all the cranes on site immediately available will speed up the first stage of the operation.
All right, Captain Nicholas Sloan, Senior Salvage Master of the Costa Concordia Removal Project, thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you, and
Now, the families of those still unaccounted for from the sunken ferry asked search crews to finish search operations by Thursday, which is last night. But as 119 people are still missing, it looks as though the search will take longer. And the amount of time this is taking has angered many of the family members. And there was a lot of commotion overnight at the Jindo Indoor Auditorium, where the family members wait for word on the search operations. Let's go live to our Connie Lee at the auditorium. Connie, what is going on there right now?
Hey, Conn-young. Unlike last night, though, today is pretty calm and quiet here at the Jindo Gymnasium. Now, around 100 or so families remain here at this shelter. And like the other days, the families here are spread across the gym floor under thin mats and blankets. They continue to keep watch on the 2 large monitors up at front. They watch the news and real-time images of the search operations that are underway at the sunken ferry site. Now, today's calm comes after a late-night burst of anger from many of the families here who weren't satisfied with Thursday's search operations. At one point before 10 p.m. yesterday, you see this bus here. A large group of the family members stormed out of the gym and got onto this bus heading to Pengmokang Harbor, or the closest area to the sunken ferry site. They went angry because family members had asked officials to end search operations by Thursday, but by late yesterday, only about 10 bodies were recovered, with more than 120 still missing at that point. Family members here say they feel like the officials are not doing their best in finding their loved ones underwater. Conn-young.
Now, Connie, this waiting has turned from days into more than a week now. Family members wanting the bodies of their loved ones before they decompose too badly. That's understandable, but they must be losing hope fast now that the weather is expected to only get worse.
Right. Well, they're trying not to lose hope because they have nothing else to hold on to. Family members of those still unaccounted for have been just wanting the bodies of their sons, daughters, wives, and husbands out of that sunken ship as soon as possible. And I've been talking with a father here who is looking for his 17-year-old son who attended Conn-young High School, or the school where most of the ferry passengers were from. Now, I'm going to mention a sad reality here. The father says that from his son's homeroom class of 34 students, only one student has survived. Reporting live from the Jindo Gymnasium, this has been Connie Lee.
Now, the group memorial altar in Ansan was busy all night long, and it's filling up again on this Friday with visitors from all walks of life lining up to lay flowers in front of the portraits of the young people who so tragically lost their lives in this terrible disaster. We're going to go live to our Kim Ji-yeon, who is outside the memorial hall. Ji-yeon.
Hello, Conn-young. Inside the hall behind me, portraits of high school students and teachers are displayed, about 90 of them. Around 50,000 people have paid a visit here and sent their condolences to the deceased, and I talked to some of them earlier today.
I hope they are resting in a warm place. My nephew is still in the ferry. I sincerely hope they rescue him soon.
I hope you rest in peace.
Because a lot of people have come here, I think they are going to cross over to the other side with a smile on their face.
Gianna, for those who didn't have a chance to pay a visit to the memorial yet, when can they go?
Well, the memorial here in Ansan is open 24 hours a day and will be open throughout the weekend. And another memorial is in the southwestern city of Mokpo, which is closer to the accident site. And another is in the city of Ulsan. Memorial altars there are set up at plazas near Dongbu and Pukbu Ulsan metropolitan city. And overseas in Australia, a memorial altar will be set up starting Monday until May 2nd at the Western Croydon Park, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. local time. Around 63,000 people have paid a visit to the altar online for the deceased high school students and teachers. This is Kim Ji-yeon live from Ansan Olympic Memorial Hall.
We now have our Connie Kim standing by at Korea University Ansan Hospital, where most of the bodies recovered from the Seoul ferry are transported. Connie.
Hi, Conn-young. I'm connecting to you live from Korea University Ansan Hospital. Now today, earlier this morning, at least 24 student bodies have been released to their families, including the 17-year-old Korean-Russian student whose dream was to become a professional swimmer and swim for the national team. Now, a crisis center in Jindo, set near the accident site, has begun to deliver the bodies from Jindo to Ansan, including the hospital I'm standing in right now. Now, this cuts the transfer time to less than 2 hours, shortening the original time of about 5. And in another development report as well, the city of Ansan and Gyeonggi-do province are looking into designating a student on board the Seoul ferry who first called the Coast Guard for emergency help as a good Samaritan, as he helped save the lives of 174 people. The student's body was recovered from the Seoul ship on Thursday. If he is bestowed with the honor, he would be eligible for burial at the National Cemetery, and his family would receive special benefits. As of now, a total of 137 Conn-young High School students and teachers are confirmed to be dead.
Connie, a bomb threat was received by the hospital. What do we know about that?
Yes, a note was received earlier yesterday saying that if Korea University Ansan Hospital prevents hospitalized students from visiting the altar, it will come under a bomb attack. Now, more than a dozen of the notes saying the same thing has been found near the hospital. The hospital originally prevented students from visiting the Ansan Olympic Memorial Hall, where the altar is set up. Now, however, during a press briefing this morning, it said that students may be able to go in groups groups after their release. Police are now reviewing CCTV taken from near the subway station, but no bombs or unidentified items have been discovered yet. Meanwhile, Tanon High School students that were scheduled to be released yesterday still remain in hospital. The hospital says it's considering whether to release students on the same day upon the request of the parents and students. The hospital did not release any students yet, although some were scheduled to be as early as today. This has been Connie Kim reporting live from Korea University Ansan Hospital.
Meanwhile, authorities are broadening their investigation into what exactly happened on the day the Seoul ferry capsized and who is responsible for this man-made disaster. For more details, we go live to our Shin Se-min from the News Center. Se-min, what are we learning of late?
So far, it looks like all 15 rescued crew members, including the captain Lee Jun-seok that escaped the ferry, will face criminal charges. Now, 11 have already been charged with negligent homicide while violating maritime law, with the remaining 4 under investigation as suspects. Comments made by some of the crew members are causing quite a stir as well. One testified that crew members, including himself, were in a room just less than 10 meters away from where the passenger cabins were right before they fled the ship, which clearly suggests they did not follow the safety standard protocols to help passengers escape.
Now, Se-min, investigation into the ferry's operator, the Cheonghaejin Marine Company, is also underway.
Yes, the special investigation team is looking into all probable causes. One angle they are looking at are the irregularities in overall port operations. Prosecutors found out just today that the practical owner of the Seoul ferry operator, Yoo Byung-won, and his family own at least 3 paper companies. The prosecutors believe there might be even more. And investigators say these fraudulent companies were used to create slush funds by drawing in wealth from the company's affiliates. Also earlier, prosecutors ordered second son and a daughter of Yoo Byung-won to return to Korea by the 29th of April for questioning, and that is next Tuesday. And there are a lot of accusations surrounding the family right now, from tax evasions and embezzlement to illegal overseas transactions, and as well as their actions.
Right, so, I mean, like you said, as well as their actions or lack thereof leading up to the Seoul tragedy. What about the cause of the sinking? Are we any closer to finding out what actually happened?
Well, not actually. Investigators continue to look into all possibilities. Now, prosecutors are looking into another similar vessel, the Ohama-naho ferry, also owned by the Cheonghaejin Marine Company, the operator of the sunken Seoul, to find possible clues. A number of possible causes have been raised over the past several days, however, but 3 have emerged as the most probable scenarios. One is that the Seoul ferry made a sudden right turn as it attempted to do a P-turn, and experts say the helm was turned back again, but the ferry didn't come back to its original position, possibly causing operations to freeze momentarily. Now, this is when another factor comes in. The 3,500 tons of freight on board was not secured properly, and this caused all the containers and vehicles in the cargo hold to list to one side, tilting it even further with the concentrated weight on that side. And lastly, there's also the possibility that renovations made to the ferry to maximize the number of passengers and cargo made it unstable. Now, the advisory panel of 13 experts will meet for the first time around 3 o'clock Korea time to figure out what exactly went wrong. Professors, marine shipping experts, and representatives from the shipping industry will attempt to reconstruct the accident using a mock-up of the ferry. Conn-young?
All right, that is in about 40 minutes' time. Now, it's been 10 days since a ferry with hundreds of people on board capsized off Korea's southwestern coast, and as the details leading up to the accident emerge in the following days, more experts have raised questions about what caused the ship to sink. Now, one of them is maritime safety expert Kevin Doherty, and he joins us live on the line. Kevin is a former U.S. Marine and currently president of a maritime safety security firm based in Arlington, Virginia. Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you say that the sinking of this Seoul and the tragic loss of lives was a preventable final link in a systematic fatal chain of errors dating back months. Now, what makes you say that?
Well, some of the reports that we've seen come out The ship was retrofitted back in February with some additional passenger accommodations, which were at the highest levels, raising the center of gravity. There was some 2 weeks prior to the vessel leaving port, the crew reported that their steering system had a no voltage report. There was just a number of systemic issues with regards to the fitness of that vessel to sail.
Right. So apparently so many critical factors that were overlooked. Now, what is the general procedure in terms of safety and security checks before a ship sets off sail? I mean, how are they followed in other countries?
Well, the initial, just the fact of the retrofitting, adding the additional weight, as well as raising the center of gravity, should have called for a thorough audit from the flag states. In addition, the cargo being loaded would have been supervised by port state control. There were just a number of checks and balances that should have caught a number of these links.
All right. So you are saying that you're among those experts who believe that this was actually a preventable cause or preventable tragedy, that could have saved many more lives. All right, Kevin Doherty, a U.S.-based maritime security expert. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, shifting to general news, U.S. President Barack Obama has arrived in Seoul shortly before for a 2-day visit. Now, this is his 4th visit to the nation, the most ever for a sitting U.S. president. From North Korea's recent nuclear threats to South Korea's ferry disaster, our correspondent Choi Sun walks us through what will top the agenda during his talks with President Park Geun-hye.
Talks this Friday between President Park Geun-hye and U.S. President Barack Obama in Seoul will largely focus on reaffirming their security alliance on the Korean peninsula.
North Korea-related issues, including the North's recent threats to conduct a nuclear test, will be discussed. Strategic talks on the state of affairs in Northeast Asia will also take place.
Since their meeting last month on the sidelines of the Nuclear Security Summit in the Netherlands, Pyongyang has threatened to carry out what it called a new form of nuclear test. President Obama is expected to express support for President Park's vision on reunification of the two Koreas. In a speech in Dresden last month, the South Korean leader called for the two Koreas to expand reunions of families separated by the Korean War and increase cross-border economic and cultural exchanges. On the economic front, the two presidents will likely discuss Seoul's possible membership into the Washington-led Trans-Pacific Trade Pact. There's also tension towards what President Obama might say concerning strained Seoul-Tokyo ties over Japan's repeated denials of its imperialistic aggressions. This, especially after he said Japan's disputed islands with China were subject to Washington's defense treaty with Tokyo following talks with his Japanese counterpart Thursday. Reflecting strong Seoul-Washington relations, the U.S. leader will also return 9 Korean royal seals that were lost during the Korean War. And as South Koreans mourn the loss of so many lives in a recent ferry disaster, President Obama is set to express his sympathies during his 2-day visit. After a meeting with Korean and American business leaders and visiting U.S. forces in Korea, Obama will depart for Malaysia on Saturday. Choi Sun, ARIRANG News.
Now, as search and rescue operations continue for the 10th day down in Jindo nearby the accident site, the weather has been playing a big factor. So let's get a check on the weather conditions there. For that, let's go to our Michelle Park. Michelle.
Now, the weather conditions in Jindo appears to be favorable today with clear skies and visibility of up to 17 kilometers and light wind. However, the speed of the currents underwater is up to 6 kilometers, and it appears that it will increase throughout the day. Now, currently the water temperature in Jindo is at 12.5. It's a slight higher than yesterday, with winds blowing at 4.3 meters per second and the height of the wave at 0.7 meters, and all of which are slightly higher than yesterday. Now, for the rest of the nation, most of the highs are now in the high 20s with clear sunny skies. Also, along with this fine weather, the fine dust level is fairly high over the nation. Now, going over to our readings. Seoul tops out at 27 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will get up to 27 and 23 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island tops out at 23, Dokdo at 21, while Namkung-gang tops out at 18. Well, that's all I have at this moment. Back to you, Conn-young.
Thank you, Michelle, for that, and thank you for watching. That's all from me at this hour. Our steady coverage on the nation's search and rescue efforts in Korea's ferry disaster continues right here on ARIRANG News. Join me again at the top of the next hour.